Hey, Giants fans and football fans, welcome to the Giants Grit fan channel, your channel with views and reviews of the New York football Giants without all the theatrics. Well, week 14, the Giants lost to the Saints 14-11. It was 7-3 at the half. They actually played a little better than I thought. I thought they'd get annihilated. The Giants seem to be everybody's get better, get well team to play. It was a close game. What lost it for them basically was they had 12 penalties. They had 15 penalties the week before. There was bad coaching again. I don't know why Brian Daboll insists on becoming a hardcore passing attack when our line usually run blocks better. We have an excellent rookie running back in Tyrone Tracy, a solid veteran running back in Devin Stingley, and he just wants to pass like he's got Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen back there. So anyway, and we lost also because of bad quarterbacking, which is kind of like a broken record with when Daniel Jones was there. Unfortunately, Drew Lock is doing his best imitation of Daniel Jones with this almost identical in holding the ball too long when he has adequate time, when he should either just throw it or throw it away. But instead, and now he drifts to his right in the pocket, same exact thing. The only thing is, he sucks a little bit less than Daniel Jones, and he costs a lot less. He'll make some throws. He'll make the downfield throws that Daniel Jones won't make, and he'll actually complete some throws with better velocity and better accuracy than Daniel Jones would do. So he just sucks less, but Daniel Jones, the bar is really low. So here we are. He's been off the team for 2 weeks, and I'm still picking on Daniel Jones. But Drew Lock, it would have been nice if they put him in earlier. I mean, he's got no future with the team, I don't think. Certainly not at his $5 million salary. But Drew Lock, again, he's as much responsible. Had he played just average instead of bad, Giants had a chance to win this game. So anyway, moving on to running backs. Tyrone Tracy had 16 carries for 45 yards, and Singletary had 2 runs for 8 yards. Surprisingly, Tracy, he usually has at least a couple of runs, fairly long runs, but his longest run was only 7 yards. However, I'm not going to put that on him. There were just no holes. The offensive line, while I thought they played pretty well, considering the injuries, at least they pass blocked well, and I'll get to the offensive line in a moment. But yeah, there were just no holes running wise. I thought that was also part of the bad coaching. Coach Daboll just has too many shotguns where the back has limited run options. Whereas, it'd be nice if he could have his quarterback under center and there were more run options. Be nice if we could have, maybe a fullback. I know we don't have a fullback on the roster, and Bellinger, who's now the starting tight end, would usually play that role. But you could do something. You make Manhurst the number 1 tight end on the line, and you have Bellinger play the move tight end or the H-back or the fullback. But regardless, they didn't run it very much. So again, that's on coaching. But give the Saints credit. They were a brick wall, and the Giants offensive line really had a hard time poking any holes in there. So it was tough for any running back. As far as the tight ends are concerned, let me go to wide receivers. Malik Nabers looked a little bit like his old self. He had 5 catches for 79 yards. He averaged about 15 and a half yards a catch. It was nice to see him back to his old self a little bit. I mean, nice catches, nice routes, a little bit after the catch, and he didn't have that bad body language. And at least the game planning around, he wasn't catching super short passes where he can get killed by linebackers and DBs just going off on him. Unfortunately, he should have caught a few more. He caught his first pass in the first quarter, and not again. He didn't catch another pass until early in the fourth quarter. So I know they don't want to force the ball to him, but go ahead and force it. Get him downfield, even mid-range. Just forget about forcing the short passes to him. Just try and get him stuff downfield. They did throw 3 downfield passes, 2 sideline ones to Darius Slayton. One was out of bounds and one Slayton caught, but that was kind of on Slayton's fault. He kind of didn't give Locke enough room, and he only got 1 foot in. And then there was another deep one to Hyatt that was just a little too far. But I like that at least Drew Lock will throw him. You didn't see that with Daniel Jones, unfortunately enough. Slayton did catch, the aforementioned Slayton did catch 2 catches for 27 yards, but they were both in the fourth quarter after having 2 deep passes, those sideline ones I mentioned in the first quarter. So quarters 2 and 3, just nothing there for Slayton. So bad wide receiver play is a part of this reason they lost this game, because there were about 4 or 5 drops. And there were some drops as well that they won't go down as drops in the stats, but there were plays that the wide receivers really got to run through the ball. Even the announcers said that, and try and help your quarterback out. I know the routes that are called, it seems like no Giants ever wide open, but unfortunately, the play calling, there seem to be too many outs and digs and curls that not enough chance for a receiver to truly break away and get some yak afterwards. Malik Neighbors, that's part of his game, is he's able to, because he's so quick, he's able to do that, but you can't expect him to do that all the time, and you can't expect the other wide receivers. So bad play calling, that's again responsible for the poor games by the wide receivers. Jalen Hyatt had a couple of targets, but no catches. Wan'Dale Robinson had his usual 4 to 6 catches a game for like 5 yards a catch. But he had 4 catches for like 90 or 38 yards. So he averaged 9.5 yards a catch, a couple of first downs. Again, I'm just happy he's playing at this point. He takes a beating as a slot receiver that running these short routes in this offense. So I hope next year with a new quarterback and hopefully a new play caller, we could really utilize him, because I still think he's one of the Giants' better players. Moving on to the tight ends, Theo Johnson, just as he's developing, a player who I was really fond of because I liked the pick at the time and I thought he was developing and coming along nicely. Had an excellent game last week, but unfortunately he got hurt, a foot injury. He was doing his best Mark Bavaro imitation last week and again hurt his foot. Daniel Bellinger stepped up as a starter. He had 5 catches for 45 yards. Unfortunately, they were all in the second half. However, he can't do much after the catch, but you could see that he's definitely a lesser version of Theo Johnson, also in the blocking department. He's a decent backup, and I do want to keep him next year, and he will be on the team next year. It'll be his 4th year. Chris Manhertz was in there for a few snaps, playing his usual blocker role. And that was about it for tight end. As far as the offensive line, a little bit of a mixed bag. As I mentioned before when I was talking about the running backs, there were no holes. The offensive line could just not get really any push or make any holes on that Saints defensive line. And again, give credit to the Saints front 7. They did not. They were a brick wall, and the Giants just could not run against it. The best runs were Drew Lock. Had 5 carries for 59 yards on his scramble, so he was the best runner. We had over 100 yards running, but again, he had over half of the rushing yards. And moving on to the offensive line, I'll stay on the offensive line. Josh Isuzu started for Chris Hubbard, who was hurt. Jermaine Illuminaire, he was hurt. So Evan Neal, who's a little dinged up himself, played right tackle. Josh Isuzu, I expected to get killed like he has every game when he plays at tackle. He didn't actually play that bad. I don't know if it's just because he was playing against Chase Young, who hasn't quite panned out. But he had an okay game, Josh Isuzu, as did Evan Neal. Evan Neal, against the Panthers and against the Bucks, he looked okay. Then looked like a disaster against the Cowboys, but then he was going up against Micah Parsons a lot. So So we're still on the fence on Evan Neal. We'll see how these last 4 games go. I'm pretty sure he'll be on the team next year. Hopefully he could be as a starter and try and salvage that pick. I was hoping he'd be a great player as he was the 7th pick of his draft class, but unfortunately, and it was looking worse, like he didn't even belong in the NFL. He'd probably be better off playing guard, but I think the Giants want to stick with him at tackle. So again, the next 4 games, very important to see Neal's development. Now, as far as the interior, John Runyon got hurt. Austin Stenny filled in for him. Played okay. JMS got hurt. The center got hurt a little bit. Van Rooten moved over and played. So they still played okay, but again, you got to give them, they got to take the blame for the interior 3 for not opening up the running game. But in the passing game, they pass blocked pretty well. All of them, the tackles and the guards, I thought played pretty well. There were no real jail breaks. And Drew Lock made the offensive line look worse because, again, he would exit out of the pocket a little too quick. He would drift out. He kept drifting to his right, which drove me nuts when Daniel Jones used to do it. And now here Drew Lock's doing it. There were 5 passes batted down by when he was in the pocket. But that's more on Drew Lock, and again, I give the Saints defensive line credit, especially number 90, Brian Breezy. He went off. He had a great game against the Giants, against the run and the pass, and he blocked the game-winning field goal, the game-tying field goal to Brian Breezy. So he was a pain for the Giants' offensive line. But again, Drew Lock has got to manipulate the pocket a little bit. Getting 5 passes batted down is not a good thing. But they did allow him to step up, and a lot of his runs were him stepping up and was able to make those runs because the offensive line held the blocks long enough. So now moving on to the defense. Now, the interior defensive line, next to quarterback, they were I blame them for most of the losses, again, after quarterback. Now, with Dexter Lawrence out, Nacho out, and DJ Davison out, and the starters were Jordan Riley, Elijah Garcia, and Elijah Chapman. They also got Corey Durden, excuse me. So, the pickup for the Rams, a recent pickup for the Rams, they played excellent. I mean, granted, the coaching was good. There were more 3- and 4-man lines with true big men playing down on there, so they were able to stop the run. They didn't get much as far as pass rush, which I didn't really expect them to, but I was very impressed. Elijah Garcia had 5 tackles himself and had a tackle for loss. Elijah Chapman had 3 tackles, including a tackle for loss, and Corey Dundon played very well, I thought. A lot of them didn't show up on the stat sheet, but they were able to hold the blocks and allowed, as we go to linebackers, Micah McFadden had his best game, I thought, as a Giant in all his 3 years. And I've said many a times, he's a solid player who would look even better if he had more surrounding talent, but he looked excellent. He was kept clean. He was running downhill. He had 11 tackles. It seemed like he had 20 tackles. And he had 5 tackles for loss. 5. I mean, that's rare to get that many on at any position. 5 tackles for loss. Didn't seem to get burnt in coverage either, and it was just basically all over the field. So, and I didn't see one single missed tackle, and he's usually good for a couple of those a game. So, shout out to Micah McFadden. He had a great game. Now, and it helped just in time because Bobby Okereke is hurt. He had a back injury, so he missed the game. Rookie Darius Mawasu filled in for him. Had a good game himself. He was solid. Made a lot of good plays. A couple of a tackle for losses, and he had 8 tackles and looked good. Basically looked good. I'm thinking moving forward, that might be the 2 guys to move forward with. I mean, Bobby Okereke's got a high cap number. We might be all right with just those 2 there. So, and now moving on to the edge guys, the edge/outside linebackers. Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns both had good games, I thought. Not great games, just, pretty solid games. Tibbs had 1 sack. He had 3 tackles. He had a couple of quarterback hits. He played well against the run. I thought he had some nice hustle plays. And basically, he looks pretty healthy now. And looking forward to these last 4 games. He got his 3rd sack of the year. I expect him to. This is how I want him to play. Sure, he was invisible for some spurts there, but it was a good game overall. One of his better games this year. I know he's missed like 5 games. As far as Brian Burns, kind of the same evaluation. He had 5 tackles. He had his sack. He had a couple of quarterback hits. He even had a pass defense. He was a little bit quiet. Maybe he wasn't quite as consistent as Thibodeaux, but he did play in some spurts and look good. So again, he got his 7th sack of the year. So moving forward, I expect if him and Thibodeaux can just step it up a little more, there'll be something to look forward to. And those are kind of the 2 defensive building blocks that they're going to be moving forward with. I mean, they still have Thibodeaux on contract for 2 more years, and Brian Burns has got like a 5-year expensive contract. So I'm pleased that they played well even in a loss, but the defensive line certainly helped them as they were able to maintain the blocks and allow Tibbs and Burns to tee off a little bit and run to the ball. So Tamon Fox got a little bit of playing time, nothing significant, good or bad. Moving on to the secondary, I was also pleased with the secondary. Deonte Banks was out, Drew Phillips was out, Cordell Flott, he was in, but he was basically on the bench. He was hurt. He was inactive. He was active for the game, but he did not get any snaps whatsoever. So your starting corners were Trey Hawkins and Adoree Jackson, and they both played well. Adoree Jackson had like 3 tackles. He had a nice pass defense on a deep ball and basically had good coverage throughout the game. And Trey Hawkins had his best game as a Giant. As a matter of fact, in my free agent preview, I had them letting him walk, and now I'm like, shoot, they gotta keep Trey Hawkins. He had 6 tackles, a couple of pass defense, and an interception. Yay! The Giant got an interception. They hadn't had one since the first game of the season. They went 11 straight games without an interception, and so Trey Hawkins was able to get one. But then, like how the rest of the season has went, he got hurt late in the 4th quarter, and Greg Stroman replaced him. Yeah, tough break because it looks like he had a back injury. Hopefully nothing serious, but he did walk off the field. But nonetheless, backs are tricky. So hopefully we'll see how it is in the next week or 2 as far as Trey Hawkins goes. Again, with his terrible record, and who knows if this coaching staff and this front office is going to stay intact. But I just want to see the young players develop. So that's why I want to see Evan Neal playing well. I want to see Trey Hawkins playing well. I want to see Darius Muasu playing well. And kind of all of that happened today. So as far as the rest of the secondary is concerned, yeah, Drew Phillips was out as well. Isaiah Simmons and Greg Stroman played in the slot. And they were pretty reasonable. His coverage was good. I mean, the Giants didn't lose this game because of the secondary, that's for sure. And as far as safety was concerned, Tyler Nubin and Jason Pinnock, they had steady games. Nubin had 5 tackles. Unfortunately, got hurt later in the game, and Dane Belden filled in for him. And Belden had 5 tackles himself, looked solid, as did Jason Pinnock. Pinnock had 6 tackles, was pretty kind of all over the field, making tackles and looking good in coverage. He had a nice blitz also that made David Carr throw the ball earlier than he wanted to on a third down, which got the Giants defense off the field. So yeah, good game. Nothing spectacular by the safeties, but steady, and that's totally what you want. Now, as far as the special teams are concerned, kind of a mixed bag on there. Smith Marset, he had a touchdown return called back. Unfortunately, due to Stroman with a ticky-tack hold. But he looked good. He caught everything. He had a nice 25-yard return in the second half, I believe, in the 4th quarter. And in kickoffs, which ones he did get, he was solid. returned for 25 yards. So happy with his game. And the Scottish Hammer, Jillian had 4 punts down inside the 4. They punted a lot, but it was great to see him have a good game on specials. Unfortunately, Graham Gano did not have a good game. He did get his first field goal attempt. His second field goal attempt it went through a 49-yarder, but unfortunately, because there was a unnecessary roughness, the guard, Jake Kubas, had a roughing penalty on that play, and it knocked them back, took the field goal off the board, and then we got back 5 yards, and then they had to punt. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag. And of course, at the end of the game, Giants down by 3, 37-yard attempt, basically a chip shot, and Gano just missed it. It was blocked by number 90 of the Saints, Brian Breezy, who again had a great game, all-around game. So he was a thorn in the Giants' side down to the last play. So yeah, unfortunately, tough loss for the Giants. I was glad to see some of the younger players playing well. And basically, that's all you can ask for at this point in the season. I personally, I'm leaning towards, I want to see this staff replaced. I don't want Brian Daboll as the coach at all. I think we should go with someone new. I feel the same about Joe Schoen, the GM. I mean, they're the reason the Giants are in this mess. I think we got to go with someone new. So who would I like? I'll send out another video on that. Soon. Probably I'll wait till the end of the year, but I am really not happy with Brian Daboll or GM Joe Schoen. So we'll see, Giants fans. We got the Ravens next week. Hopefully we'll see how this new defensive line can play, and let's see the offensive line with all the guys that are hurt. A lot of guys are going down now because of the injuries are catching up, and a lot of them seem to be, it's hard to play when they're losing like this. It's very discouraging. So hopefully we'll see how they do. Again, I'm not expecting to win. Here's what it's come down to, is that you're hoping they stay close and not get blown out. So who knows, though? You got to keep fighting, Giants. Keep fighting, Giants. Keep fighting, Giant fans, and support the Giants. Please like and subscribe, you guys. I know it's tough this season, but, I'm sticking with it. Stick with it for me. So, again, take care, Giants fans. Till next time.